Hey guys, it's a steaming pile of ship here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the British, or should I say Royal Navy, Tier 10 light cruiser, the Minotaur. The Minotaur has been a ship that I've kind of liked, I've kind of hated. It's, well, it took me a while to finally get used to this ship, but now that I am used to this ship, I really like playing it. It's one of these ships, though, that I have to say it kind of gets boring after a while. Um, it really makes you damage greedy because it's fairly easy to get, if the enemy lets you, it's fairly easy to have good games where you get a high amount of damage and it honestly doesn't seem nearly as special anymore. And also kind of the play style makes it that way. But more on that later. You saw that I just shot right there, and the reason that I did that, I was testing to see if there was any destroyers going in between B and C that might spot me if I try and go towards B from this side of the island. I really don't want to go into C. I'd like to go into B, but I really don't want to go all the way south of that island blocking my entrance that's currently directly in front of me. So I was firing to see if anything would see me, and I'll do it again right now. But just to be sure that nothing's going to spot me for maybe some battleships as I try and get into Bravo. I really don't want to be caught out of position doing that, so that's why I did that. But since I'm not spotted, since nobody is in C capturing it right now, I am going to head towards B. And we do have an enemy, well, probably a destroyer. I don't see what other ship would be able to get into B this quickly in the game. But we do have an enemy destroyer capturing Bravo already. Hopefully sometime soon our carrier is going to be able to spot whatever it is with his planes. But for now, we're going to be pushing in ourselves. Still nothing capturing C. We do have a lone Alabama heading up there. I hope that there's not a destroyer that does decide to go capture C because, well, that Alabama is dangerously alone, and I think our Bismarck might have been AFK up until right now. It looks like he finally started moving. We are spotted by the enemy fighters. They're Lexington fighters, I believe, chasing our friendly dive bombers and torpedo bombers. So we are designating his fighters to try and shoot them down. And you just see how quickly, even without the defensive fire consumable allowed on the Royal Navy cruisers, we're shooting down these planes fairly quickly. I do have manual AA enabled, so I was designating those, so it looks like, unfortunately, our friendly carrier didn't manage to, well, his planes look like they all got shot down, and he is under attack, or can be under attack fairly soon. It looks like there's a lot of planes going, oh, they're getting shot down quickly. But anyways, unfortunately, he's tier 8, so his planes really aren't doing much. We're going to fire some torpedoes right in that little gap there, hopefully. That Alabama is fairly close, so I'd love to be able to land a few torpedoes on him if he decides to go this way. We did manage to avoid the enemy Iowa that you see right there earlier. He shot over the island when we got spotted by the planes. And battleships are a huge, well, they're kind of a source of yay damage, but then also they're definitely something you don't want to underestimate either. We've popped hydro because there was still that destroyer here on B. I knew that since when I got in here we weren't beginning the capture, but there would have to be something over here, so I popped hydro to make sure I wouldn't get torpedoed, and we do spot the little Benson right there for just a short amount of time, but now he's out of the hydro range. And the Alabama is going to miss all of the torpedoes we fired right there, which is a bit of a bummer. But now he's giving us pretty much full broadside, and you see we just chunk off damage, or chunk off his health, 3, 4, 5k each salvo. I run the reload mod on the Minotaur due to the fact that the shell arcs are very, very floaty. I've tried range mod because of how passive the game in high tiers can be, but I found out that 18 kilometers really isn't viable for shooting with the Minotaur. The only thing you ever really hit is that one battleship that gives you perfect broadside, just like this Tirpitz, at max range, and it's kind of, as passive as the game is, even battleships will try to avoid that sort of shells coming in. We're firing some torpedoes into the smoke screen laid by the Edinburgh in the hopes that maybe we'll be able to either flush them out or even kill them outright with those. He no doubt has his hydro active. Ours just went away. And speaking of going away, our smoke is about to go away as well, so we're going to try and get a few more salvos off inside the smoke and then head into the cover of this island. One of the great things about these... well, that wasn't great. More on that in a second. One of the great things about these British cruisers is that they do have very good acceleration. And that can be very useful for getting in and out of a trouble spot very, very quickly. One of the bad things is, as you saw, very, very large citadel, very, very low amount of armor. You don't have armor at all, and we do land a torpedo hit, but I am detected, and here's that Benson. He still hasn't left, but that's not going to be a good thing for him, because 3.6 kilometers away from a Minotaur is not where you want to be in a Tier 8 destroyer. And we take him out fairly easy there. He set us on fire, but I'm not going to put that out yet because A, the Royal Navy cruisers have an amazing damage control, heal rather, which means that I don't really need to use my damage control yet because it'll heal almost all of this fire damage that he's able to put out on me and then some. So I am going to use it now and mitigate the damage that not only he did to us, but also some of the damage that the Alabama, I believe it was the Alabama, did to us. I don't know who actually shot us when we were in smoke and when they were in smoke, but now we've healed almost all of that up, and the only real downside to having a heal as quick as the one on the Royal Navy cruisers is that it didn't stay for the full duration of the fire. So we do have a little bit of damage that we took from it burning out completely, but nothing we can't deal with. Enemy North Carolina starting to give us broadside. And this is kind of why I was talking about how battleships, you look at them like they're food, but you also look at them like they're a big threat, because when you get broadside battleships like this guy who's only 10 kilometers away, you start to really do some damage to them, but you also take quite a lot of damage from them if they know what they're doing. So you see we get fairly lucky right there, and we do have an Edinburgh pushing us. I don't know quite what he's doing. He's probably about to hydro us, so we're going to probably throw some torpedoes around the corner there just to make sure that he's got to dodge or something. And we do get spotted right there, so we know he's using his hydroacoustic search. He's going to have to either turn away to dodge those or wait for us to hopefully get around the island a little bit further, where we'll be much better able to not only defend ourselves from him, but also hopefully avoid more shots like that. And we are going to heal that up as soon as we can, because that's another huge chunk of damage. And unfortunately I'm broadside to him, but if we're lucky, and we're not, I was going to say if we're lucky we'll be able to delete him with one salvo, but unfortunately I didn't wait quite long enough. If I waited maybe a half second more, I would have had been able to aim a little bit further in towards his citadel and killed him with one salvo and avoided all of that damage. But hindsight 2020. We still managed to kill him off very quickly. Again, this ship has such a huge DPM, and we are getting radared by probably that Missouri right there. We're spotted by aircraft now too, so not that it really matters. We had to get out of our smoke due to the fact that he had Hydra and was charging us. But you have such a high DPM on this ship that really no other cruiser can compete with like broadsiding like that. You can obviously take a lot of damage when you're broadside to him, but he's going to take a lot more because you're able to dish out so much in such a short amount of time. So broadside fights, you don't really want to do them in the Minotaur, but you can shell out a lot of damage if the enemy cruisers give you broadside. Same with the battleships. You're never going to really citadel a battleship, but a 5,000 damage chunk every 2.8 seconds sure is nice, so, you know. And let's look. This Alabama's giving us broadside 4K. 5K. almost 6. 2K. He's starting to turn in, and you will start to see a little bit of drop off now. I know I was mentioning the floaty arcs. It really does become difficult when they start maneuvering like this to hit them. I'm going to hit him a few more times, but it looks like he's going to be behind this island fairly shortly, and I'm not going to really be able to see him to do much more damage. Enemy Zhao popping around the corner, so we're going to start throwing rounds towards him. Zhaos are fairly difficult, or fairly dangerous, rather, targets, so we want to focus him down and hopefully do some damage to him. Well, he's now unspotted, but I want to do as much damage to him as we possibly could. That way our friendlies wouldn't have to deal with him as much. Now, obviously, we've seen the guns doing quite a bit of damage here, and we did get one torpedo hit earlier, but one of the amazing things about the Minotaur is that you have 10-kilometer range torpedoes and only an 8.9 kilometer detection range, which means you can actually stealth, well, with full concealment build, you can actually stealth torp enemy ships. And that's not something that you really see on most cruisers. I think the only other ship that isn't really Royal Navy that can do it is maybe the Ibuki. I think the Ibuki can get away with it. The Duca d'Aosta, of course, has the longest range torpedoes of any cruiser currently in the game, with 12 kilometers, although they're very, very situational in that regard. But it's not something that you really see a lot of cruisers having the ability to do, so being able to stealth torp in a cruiser like the Minotaur is really handy. I don't really want to be where I'm at, though, because that's a lot of battleship guns with big 16-inch shells, and I really don't want to be anywhere near them. We're going to shoot a little more at this Iowa because we'll do likely more damage to him. But it looks like it won't really matter who we shoot at because we're going to take him out with 5 torpedo hits. Now, we are in radar range of that Missouri, but I don't think he's going to actually use it on us because he doesn't have line of sight. And as soon as we smoke up here, he won't know how far away he truly is anyways. So if he's in range, he probably won't want to waste it just in case it would be more useful to him in a little bit. The game is ending soon though, so we are going to farm this enemy Des Moines as much as we can for damage. He of course is outside of his own radar range, so we're not really worried about him. I did pop Hydro kind of out of instinct there. I forgot that there were no enemy destroyers left alive, so I popped it just to be sure I wouldn't take a torpedo, but realistically I don't have to worry about anything. It is definitely a good idea though to use that hydroacoustic search as much as you have it available when you're in smoke. When you coincide using your hydro with your smoke, it is very, very powerful in making sure you don't take any unexpected damage from torpedoes or other ships like that. And it can spot destroyers trying to sneak up on you too. But the game is about to end, so we're just going to try and get a few more hits on this Des Moines, and hopefully might be able to get a little more. He's sailing away though. So a pretty good result in the Tier 10 British cruiser, the Minotaur, with 231,000 damage. 6 torpedo hits, 3 citadel hits against the Edinburgh, and 3 destroyed ships. Moving on towards the team score, you can see we got 2,906 base experience. We shot down only 11 planes, which is kind of funny, but I guess when you think about it, it's pretty likely that the enemy carrier learned his lesson after losing those 2 fighter squadrons, so, well, can't really blame him for trying to avoid me. Confederate Dreadnought, Devastating Strike, and High Caliber were the awards we received, and moving on, we did 231,000 total damage, as I mentioned. 175,000 damage was done by the main battery, and all of that done by the main battery was of course done with armor piercing, since there are no high explosive shells being able to, well, you don't have high explosive with your main battery. And actually, I don't believe the Minotaur has secondaries either, so there's really no chance you can ever set a fire with the Minotaur, which is kind of amusing. Torpedoes, we did 54,000 damage with those, and a little bit of damage with flooding, but nothing meaningful. We received 6,700 damage, and that's a pretty big amount of damage when you consider we only have like 40,000 hit points, something like that. We'll go look in port, but You have to remember that the amazing heel of these British cruisers really makes it, it's deceptively able to tank. I mean, you can't really take a lot of damage at one time, but if you use the heals properly and you just kind of take chunks and chunks and chunks, maybe the odd citadel every now and again, as long as you don't get devastating striked. I think I just made a verb there. But as long as you don't get killed by a battleship with one salvo or a cruiser or whatever, you generally can tank quite a bit of damage considering how fragile of a ship you really are. Finally, for the credits and experience, I've got the perma camo, I've got my military month contributor. I believe this was the first win of the day, so there was a lot of stuff going towards that, but in total we got 470,000 credits and 13,295 ship experience with 665 free experience. Again, gotta remember, Type 20 permanent camo, military contributor, daily win, premium account, all of that. So obviously definitely inflated from those, but a surprising amount of experience earned when you look at it that way. And again, it was somewhere around 2,900 base experience, which is still fairly good on its own. Anyways, let's go on to the build, since I've never actually made a build for this ship, or video for this ship rather. Well, I was going to show this ship off in the dry dock port, but I figured she's a little bit more at home here in London, so here's the Minotaur in the London port. This is the amazing looking premium permanent camo. Gives you quite a lot of credits, as we have seen, and it looks pretty good. Anyways, we're going to dive right in. Armor layout, I did want to point out before we go into everything that the Citadel is not only quite a large Citadel, but it also extends quite high above the waterline, and you have almost no armor on it. It's only 101 millimeters thick, so that's why we took some of those Citadels that probably wouldn't have, we might not have taken if this were something like another Tier 10 cruiser, for example. Anyways, let's go on to the build itself. Consumables, get them all premium. This ship really benefits from having the extra survivability from the smoke, not having to worry about torpedoes as much with hydro, and the extra survivability for when you do get in those firefights with the damage control party 2 and the repair party 2. So everything premium is pretty much mandatory on this ship. Going on to the upgrades. Slot 1, main armaments mod 1, no other choice out of those, they're pointless. Most of your AA comes from these main armament mod 1 if you use manual AA, which I do. We'll get into that in a minute. So protecting your tiny little bitty 76 mils here, not as important. Anyways, AA guns mod 2, that will make your AA range go out to, let's see, 7.2 kilometers, which is pretty great, especially on these guns here. So get the AA guns mod 2. There's no point in having faster turning main battery because they already turn really quickly. And the aiming systems mod 1, as fast as your reload is pretty much pointless. So yeah. Speaking of reload, if you want a reload of 2.8 seconds, get main battery modification 3. That's what I use. I've tried gunfire control system mod 2, but in the end I find that having the 16% extra range really isn't that helpful on the Minotaur because of how floaty the arcs are, and you pretty much have to be shooting at a battleship that's going full broadside to you while not really trying to dodge in order to make any sort of use of that. So just go ahead and get main battery mod 3 to have a slightly better reload. It's going to help you in close range fights, and you'll be missing it if you start out with it and then go to range like I was. Trust me, you'll want it more. Since you are a light cruiser, I've chosen propulsion modification 1, especially since you try and spend most of your time either undetected running around or in your smoke. This will help you if you take an unlucky hit while trying to get away from somebody, maybe they're radaring you. This will try and help mitigate the amount of damage you take to your engine. Slot number 5, steering gears mod 2. You can't get acceleration mod on this ship, but I think I probably would just for the kicks and giggles if you could. However, because of how quick the ship already accelerates, they don't let you get it, so we'll get steering gears mod 2, excuse me, just to get our rudder shift down to 8.3 seconds. That's where I got the 3 from. Slot number 6, finally, Concealment System Mod 1. There's no other point in taking these two. Your concealment is how you survive in the ship. You're either in smoke concealed firing away, or you're on the move stealth torping or just flexing around the battlefield. So let's go to the captain now. Slot number 1, priority target. Pretty much necessary on all cruisers. You want that. Even in the Minotaur, where you spend most of your time in smoke, you really want to have priority target. In slot number 2, there's a variety of things you can go for. I have chosen to go for Smokescreen Expert. That makes your smoke, a smokescreen larger. And the reason I do that is there's kind of a twofold reason. One, it's harder for the enemy to pinpoint where exactly you are in your smoke if it's a bigger smoke. And two, since you do only get, I think it's 2 puffs of smoke with the Royal Navy smoke, you have to slow down before you're getting shot at, and if you get surprised, it's a lot easier to, or you don't have to slow down quite as much before you pop smoke if you have this perk, because it does give you more area, so you're not as likely to glide out of smoke if you use this perk. In the 3rd row, go ahead and get Superintendent for the extra smoke, the extra heal, and the extra hydro. Very, very helpful on this ship. Finally, get Concealment Expert. After that, I would probably go for Manual AA to make you a very, very huge AA monster. After that, maybe Vigilance. You could also potentially go for Torpedo Armament Expertise. But since you have no HE shells, there's no point in getting Demo Expert. And since your main AA comes from the main battery guns, you really don't need BFT as well. Although you could get it for the 76.2? Yes, 76.2 guns. You could get it for that. I just prefer to have Vigilance to help spot torps when I'm not, whoops, wrong button. When I'm not using my hydroacoustic. And after that, I think what I'm going to be getting, or I know what I'm going to be getting after that, rather. I do have 1 point undistributed here, and I've got to unlock the last point. After that, I'm going to be getting Adrenaline Rush to give me even more DPM when I do take a ton of damage. As you saw at the end of that game, we were fairly low on health, so it would have definitely made my reload even quicker than the blazingly fast 2.8 seconds that it currently is. Anyways, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope I haven't droned on too long. I will catch you next time. This is a steaming pile of ship signing off. Thank you guys for watching.